All right, just want to make sure that you guys can hear me. All right, so a very good morning and welcome to our webinar today about studying in Australia. Our speaker for this morning will be Russell Ng, my colleague Russell Ng, and he's a specialist in Australian education. We're just waiting maybe for 1 more minute for other participants to come in and we will begin shortly. So if you're already in the room, have your notepad and your pen ready to take some notes. Get yourself a drink and be comfortable, and we will be starting very shortly. The session should last about an hour or so, probably less, including the Q&A. So if you have questions, write down your questions and we will have a short Q&A at the end of the session. So before we move on to Russell, let me just introduce ourselves. For those who do not already know us, my name is Joey. I'm from EduExperts. And what we do is we help students like you who are probably in high school or who are coming to the end of your high school with further study options after high school. We work with colleges and universities in Malaysia as well as across the world. Countries like Australia, New Zealand, United States, UK, Canada, parts of Europe, as well as in Asia, such as China, Korea, Japan, Singapore, and our home ground, Malaysia. So we've got plenty of options for you guys. If you are still pondering, what you want to study after high school, you're not sure about your options or your pathway, or maybe the costs related to studying abroad, because there are so many options, please feel free to reach out to one of our consultants after today's session. You're probably familiar with Jacelyn, who's been sending you messages and the Zoom link. So get in touch with Jacelyn after the session. Our services are free and we are located in Petaling Jaya. If you know where Jaya 1 is, that is where our office is located. All right, so so I hope you enjoyed the session today and I hope you get a lot of information and benefit from the session. I think we've got quite a number of participants in already. I don't want to take up too much of your time this morning, so let's begin. Over to you, Russell.
All right, thanks, Joey. Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you guys. I hope everyone can hear me right now. So I'll just quickly share my screen. So I'm going to give you guys a quick view of essentially how study abroad is. All right. But first of all, usually I like to say, I always like to ask the question when people talk about study abroad, as Malaysians, I would say our main dream when we are young, your parents will say, study hard, get a scholarship, and then migrate out of Malaysia. That's what a lot of people like to say. But the truth is Malaysia is actually a beautiful place and there is a lot of educational opportunities in Malaysia itself as well. So the first question that I always ask people when they are asking me if they want to study abroad is study abroad the right decision for you? So it gives a lot of questions and it's good if you guys can write down your questions and then you can let me know towards the end of this session and I'll be happy to share with you my insights. What do you think is the best option for you? And moving forward, you can discuss yourself also. Okay, now that you know these points about studying, about your further education, is it the right step for you? Okay, why do I always ask, is study abroad the right decision for you? The reason why is that you need to understand this concept before you find any single counselor in the whole of Malaysia. Very honestly speaking, a lot of counselors outside there, parents, you might want to hear this. Very honestly speaking, a lot of the counselors outside there, many of the times they send you, or they push you to go to a certain university because that university pays them a higher commission. Very honestly speaking. So it's important for you to first understand, is this the right decision for you to study? And EduExperts, of course, they are professionals and will be able to understand what you really want and we'll be able to cater towards all, because we don't have a certain bias towards any single university in that sense, because we work with all of them. So in a sense, all of them asking us to send them students. So, I mean, in that context, you need to first understand a little bit of the concepts about study abroad before you can make the right decision for you. Okay, so to give you a quick background about myself, I studied in Malaysia as well. So I did not actually study abroad. So I actually did my SPMs, all right? Then I moved on to my A-levels. I did my bachelor's, okay? And then I did my master's. So it comes to the question that why did I do my A-levels? where did I do my bachelor's and why did I do my master's. So very honestly speaking, if you can notice here from my educational background, okay, maybe you guys can try to take a guess how old am I. But essentially, I'll be able to give you guys an insight of someone who has recently graduated from higher education, and at the same time as someone who is also working in the education industry. So meaning that sense, I'll be able to give you guys both hands on the view, as a student perspective and also as an industry expert perspective. So you get both hands of it. So going back to my history, okay, oh my God, sounds so old. I did my SPM, which is essentially a very Malaysian qualifications. So I'm assuming here, some of you guys here might be doing SPMs and you guys like, man, I don't like exams, but SPM is 100% exams. So then I did my A-levels, which is a very UK-based education. And just to share with you guys, A-levels is also a 100% exam-based education. But when you go to your bachelor's and you go into your master's or wherever you want to do in the future next time, essentially after your SPM, there's actually a lot of choices that you can go into. Okay, when I say a lot of choices, there are choices that have 0% exams. So this is when you guys say, wow, no more exam. Happy, which is actually true. I don't like exam. If you guys like exam here, can you put a 1 in the chat, please? I don't think there is anyone here who like exams, very honestly speaking. So this comes into the question, what is the difference between a US education or Australia education and a UK education? Predominantly, if you're looking towards a UK education, it is very similar to like your SPM. So of course, Malaysia, we are a Commonwealth country, which means that our education is very UK based, meaning that it's actually very traditional. So you go into the theory, you study the theory, and then after that, you go into the exams and you write down the exams. That is what a UK qualifications is. That's the UK style. If you're looking into a USA style is very problem solving. They care very little about the theory, but they have a problem. So they throw the problem at you and they don't care what means you use, but they want you to solve it. So that's how your education works. But Australia has a good mix. So Australia is a mix of traditional education and also problem solving, and it's very practical. So you get a very good mix of both. If you're asking me personally, usually when you go to an Australian education, it's either 50% coursework, 50% exams, or 80% coursework, 20% exams, or just purely coursework. So it depends on what you want to study also. And then that's how they'll be able to encourage and guide you on what is your dream, because there are a few students out there that do like exams, unfortunately. But I mean, exams are good. Exams are good. It depends on how you want to spark your creative thinking once you're done. So to parents, this slide is actually towards you. Some people here are going to say, why is there a weird car over there? Reason being why I always like to put this slide is you need to understand that if you buy a car, okay, if you buy a car in 10 years time, you're going to sell the car, okay? But if you buy an education, that education is going to stay with you until the day you die. So the investment is very different. The amount of money you put into spending to buy a car, okay, after 10 years, you're not going to touch the car anymore. You're not going to see the car anymore. But the amount of money you invest inside your education is going to stay with you and determine your future, your career, and it's going to stay with you until the day you die, to be very, very honest. So the investment is very, very different. And one thing I like to highlight recently, I heard from a friend. She said, when you drive a car, when you want to buy a car, okay, let's say you want to buy a BMW, you will test drive every single BMW. Not only that, you will also test drive different cars. So you go to Honda, you go to Peugeot, you go to Mercedes lah, and you will test drive every single car. But when it comes to your education, why don't you test drive all your education options as well? So one thing that you guys should consider as well, every university will be different. Okay, every university, if I be very honest with you, if you go out to every university in Malaysia and you ask them, what are you famous for? The first thing that they will tell you, they'll say, oh, we are famous for business. I mean, to teach business, you only need a whiteboard and you need a classroom. That's it. So everyone will say that they are famous for business. But every single university has a unique aspect that is different towards other universities. So if you'd like to have a chat or rather test drive your education site, okay, please feel free to contact us at Edu Experts, and we can also link you to the university itself so that you can actually have a chat with the representative directly and you can know, okay, this university can offer me this, this university can offer me this. So in a sense, remember to test drive your education also. Because, you know, as I mentioned, if you spend 100,000 on a car, all right, you're not going to use the car after 10 years' time. But if you spend 100,000 to your education, it's going to stick with you all the way until the end. So it's a very important investment, I would say. And the money you're going to use to invest into your education today is something that is more valuable than the money is going to be in 10 years' time. Yep. Okay. So now that I'm talking about money already, so I'm going to give you guys a quick background. Remember my first slide is study abroad, the right decision for you. So in this slide, I will already share with you guys, if you want to consider studying abroad, what you might need and what you might not need. So very honestly speaking, if you're planning to study abroad, I would say please prepare around 100,000 ringgit a year. Okay, very honestly speaking. If not, then you can, of course, you can consider to study locally. Put it this way, I always put that education is never a waste. Okay, wherever you study, it's good to learn things. We learn things every day in life, right? I'm pretty sure all teachers like to say that in your school. But remember, you have to seek value for your money, your investment. So I'm going to give a quick background about the education opportunities that you can have, all right? And also what is it that is right for you. So I summarize everything for you. If you're studying abroad, I will always recommend at least 100,000 ringgit a year. Studying abroad is honestly, if you can afford it, it's an amazing experience. You get to learn a lot of things. You know, in Malay, we say, bagai katak di bawah tempurung. There's actually a lot of things outside of Malaysia if you do study abroad. A lot of things that you did not realize in your life. Very simple example. I used to study in Kertin, Sarawak. So technically, I was overseas. And so I give you guys a quick culture shock. You guys might not know this, but in Sarawak, if you study there, you actually need a student visa. So although you're Malaysian, you need a student visa. And so putting it this way, you realize that there's a lot of different things when you go outside of your comfort zone. So studying abroad, if imagine you just going like across the sea, you're still in Malaysia, but there's a lot of different cultural aspects there. Like the Malay they speak there is completely different to the Malay we speak here in West Malaysia. So that is already, in a sense, a small little cultural difference that will open your eyes to many different things. So similarly, imagine if you go and study abroad, you go to Australia, for example, the life there is completely different from here. The way the people think there is completely different from the way the people here think. So it changes yourself and it exposes yourself onto what is actually, how do I put it? If you want to be competitive next time when you want to work, you need to think in a whole round view. You cannot just be stuck inside your shell. So that's why study abroad is good, honestly speaking. But nowadays in Malaysia, you get a lot of opportunities. Very honestly speaking, if you want to study in a private college, there are a lot of private colleges right now. They have a lot of good pre-university programs and they are about 10,000 ringgit a year. So this is the only part that I will actually be talking about Malaysian education very quickly. If you're looking to go into local universities, I would say they are like USM, all this. They have no pre-U programs, okay? But they are a little bit difficult to enter and I would say risky also. I'll explain a little why later. But they are, nevertheless, they are very affordable and good education. If you're looking into private universities, they are affordable and expensive ones, and they commonly partner with UK and Australia universities. But sometimes when you want to work abroad, you need to ask yourself, if you study in a local university here in Malaysia, sorry, a private university here in Malaysia, and let's say next time you want to work in Dubai, for example, you want to work in Australia, for example, and you tell them you graduate from this university, chances are they might not know the name of that university in Malaysia, very honestly speaking. But if you go into a branch campus, okay, it can be very affordable, it can be very expensive. And at the same time, if you do want to study abroad next time in the future, it is a definite option because they will recognize your qualifications. They will know, oh, I know this university, right? But that being said, you have to be very careful with your choices as well, because very honestly speaking, some branch campuses are not branch campuses. So if you want to know more, you have to inquire with us. So where are you now and what you want to study? So these are the pathways that you can go through after your SVM or your O levels actually. Very, very simply put, if you know what you want to study already, okay, take a foundation It's a direct track into your bachelor's program, okay? It's very direct entry, it's quicker, and it's more affordable, and it's very full of coursework, meaning that your exams will be very minimal. So if you already know what you want to do, a foundation is a very good option for you. Diploma is when you more or less know what you want to do. For example, you more or less know you want to study computer science. You more or less know you want to study engineering. You more or less know you want to study business, but you are not really sure what you want to specialize in. Then diploma can be not bad of an idea, okay? It's quite affordable. And the best part, yes, once you're done, you can actually work already. If you study a foundation and you want to go and work after that, likely people will still treat you like a SPM graduate, very honestly speaking. And diploma is also very coursework inclusive. Excuse me, meaning that there is exams, there is a little bit of placement, but mostly a lot of them is very coursework based. You learn a lot of application and it's quite practical. But if you're looking into like A-level, STPM, matriculations, I would say you should go into this when you're not too sure what you want to study. Why? Number one is about usually 2 years and you study a very general thing. So for example, if you take into a foundation of engineering, you will study engineering principles right away. You are very focused into the field already. If you study a diploma in engineering, you are also focused onto the field. You already know what engineering is. But if you study a A-level, a STPM, or a matriculation, you're going to study things like physics, chemistry, mathematics, which is a very general thing. So you don't get directly into the application, and most of them are honestly speaking very exam-based. Okay, but it gives you a good time to understand, okay, I like a little bit about this part about physics. I like a little bit about this part of chemistry, but I don't like this part. I don't like that part. Then that's when you're able to analyze what you actually like. So if you're not too sure what you want to study, I would say a A-level, STPM, or a matriculation is a good option. But nevertheless, very honestly speaking, if you're asking me about the difficulties for someone who did A-levels, it is quite difficult. A-levels is quite difficult, and to be very honest, if you fail your A-levels, okay, and you want to proceed into your higher education after that, you will have to retake a foundation or a diploma, okay? So A-level, STPM, matriculation, good option, but quite difficult at the same time, okay? So this is something that you consider. So A-level or STPM can take about 1 to 2 years, depending on what is your arrangements. Diplomas are all 2 years, and foundations are always 1 year, okay? So this is basically the entry requirements if you want to study in Malaysia or you want to study abroad. So if you're in Malaysia, you're looking at 5 credits if you want to study a foundation. If you want to study abroad, you need about 3 passes in your O-level or your SPM lah. Less than that also possible, but we will have to give you different alternatives in order for you to reach your end goal, right? So it's definitely possible. Usually we will say if you pass your SPM, then you can study in Malaysia. If you fail your SPM, the only options that you have is to study abroad. Diploma, 3 credits. And if you do a A-level, SPM, or matriculation, predominantly, they do not have any entry requirements, but they are very much more difficult to enter your bachelor's after, to be very honest with you guys. Okay, so this comes into the point that maybe some of you guys are not very sure for the students that you might not be sure what you want to study. So this is actually a link that you guys can go into. It's a career tool. It's about a 5 minutes, 10 minutes test. You just put in your details and it'll come up for you what career is suited for you. What is your style of studying? What is your style that will actually suit you? And what career is good for you? What should you study in the future? So for those of you who are not really sure on what is the right idea for you guys to study, this is a good option for you guys to learn in. Okay, so this is where I go directly into Australia. Okay, usually for Australia, if you're looking into the intakes are always in March, July, and October. For those of you guys who whereby your English may not be very, very strong, Australia has this thing called ELICOS. Okay, it's called English Language for International Students. Basically what this means is if your English is not too strong and you want to join in a program, you just need to go for a certain set number of weeks of English classes before you can start your program. Okay, but in Malaysia, if you don't meet the English requirements, you will have to retake and retake and retake until you meet the English requirements. So when you study next time, you actually need to consider English requirements and academic requirements. Okay, so these are two things. So I've summarized it here over here for you. Okay, usually if you complete a SPM or O levels, okay, this is what we call pre-university. You either go into a diploma, a foundation, or matriculation, or your year 12, which is your STPM or your A levels. After you're done with your foundation or A level, for example, you go into your degree year 1. If you do a diploma, your diploma year 2 is actually the same thing as a degree year 1. Okay, this is a general thing. And after this, both of y'all will still progress into a degree year 2 and year 3. So actually everything is still the same. Okay? Okay, so why study in Australia? Okay, very honestly speaking, there is a 97% of visa application approval rates for Malaysians. Okay, this means that if you likely want to study in Australia right now, 97% of you will get your visa approved. You don't need to worry about it. Okay, and right now, if you study in Australia, you get about 2 to 4 years post-working visa, which means that essentially once you're done with your bachelor's, you can actually work in Australia for 4 years. You can work in Australia for 4 years. And if you're studying in regional areas, which essentially means outside of Melbourne and Sydney, yes, to the students out there, Australia is bigger than just Melbourne and Sydney. And Melbourne and Sydney is actually not the capital of Australia. If you study outside of it, you actually get another extra 1 year. So that being said, you need to study a minimum of 2 years in Australia. So assuming you study 2 years in Australia, okay, you get a 3 years post-working visa. Okay, so that's 5 years in Australia. You study in Perth, for example, you study in Adelaide, that's counted regional. You get another 1 year. So that's about 6 years of studying in Australia. By 6 years' time, you can consider applying for a PR already. So if you're looking for migration aspects, I would say this is definitely a selling point of Australia, very honestly speaking. Of course, I'm not a migration agent. I cannot advise you guys, but it is something that you can consider. Australia is also very into their education. So they also do offer quite a number of scholarships. And if you're looking into working part-time, okay, working part-time in Malaysia, students will be very interested in this. If you work part-time in Australia, okay, you can work 48 hours now for every 2 weeks. And the minimum wage is $23. $23. So if you convert it into Malaysian ringgit, it's about 65 ringgit an hour just working part-time. So I was discussing with Joey the other day from Edu Experts. If you scoop ice cream now, you can get about 26 Aussie dollars. And if you push the trolley at like Tesco to collect the trolley, they are giving up to 30 Australian dollars per hour. So I'm like, oh, I want to quit my job and I want to go and push trolley. So actually, if you work part-time in Australia right now, you actually can earn back your cost of living. Okay, so it's actually a very good idea if you want to study abroad. Australia is a very good option because of this also. Okay, so why Australia? Number one, is very close to home. Okay, from KL or Singapore, you have a direct flight. If you're studying in Perth, it's actually the same time zone also. Okay, the cost of living now is also very affordable. You just need to work part-time, whereby your minimum wage is $23, and you'll be able to actually pay back your cost of living. And there's a very strong shortage of workers in Australia, and it's one of the highest paid salaries. So that being said, once you're done with your degree, you can work in Australia, and of course, you're going to be paying Australian dollars. Okay, so if you're looking into flights to Australia right now, recently I bought a flight to Perth. It's about 1,005 ringgit for a return flight. If you're looking to go to Melbourne, which is of course further, all right, the flight now, return flight, is about 2,000 ringgit. So if you're thinking about a few years ago, yes, flying to Australia can be expensive, but now I would say it's a little bit more affordable. Yeah, it's a little bit more affordable. So that is something that you can consider also. Because if you're studying abroad further away, something that you need to consider also is your flight tickets, because they can be very, very expensive, and to fly in, fly out are expensive. So this is the average cost you need to consider. To parents, this is the figures for you guys. All right. I would say on average, the cost fee, if you want to study in an average university in Australia, it's about 30,000 Australian dollars per year. All right. The cost of living, I would say, is about $21,000 per year. Okay, depends on where you're studying. I'll share with you guys how to get the exact amount later. Okay, so if you time of it with the if you times the amount, so the total will be about, you're looking at about 57,000 per year. And if you times the exchange rate, it's about 178,000 per year, which is for your course fee and your cost of living. Oops. Hold on. Yeah, which is for your course fee and your cost of living. So that being said, you have to prepare around this figure every year lah, very honestly speaking, if you're looking to study abroad. Of course, there are more affordable options, and of course, there are more expensive options, okay? But generally, your cost of living, you don't really need to worry about it. Because you see, if you work part-time, which is about 48 hours every 2 weeks fortnightly, at about $23, which is the minimum wage right now, you get $2,230 per month, which is actually enough to cover your cost of living. So you actually only need to look into your course fees to that extent. Okay, but of course, you as a student, your main goal over there is to study, not to make money. Remember that. Go there to study. So that's something to consider. And if you're looking to study in other regions, part of Australia, I did this comparison for you. So now we're assuming we take 30,000, okay? 30,000. Now assuming every year you are spending 100,000 ringgit on your further education. Okay. If you look into the Australian dollar 5 years ago, it is 3.01. Today is 3.11. Okay. So the difference is only a 0.1 difference. But if you're looking into pound sterling and US dollars for Malaysian ringgit, the difference is about 0.6 every year. So assuming when you study your education, your bachelor's is about 3 years, or I would say sometimes 4 years if you're including your foundation, your diploma, or anything like that. Okay. Imagine if within 5 years, the exchange rate jumps. So that indirectly means if you're spending 100,000 ringgit on your education, for every year, you suddenly need to find an extra 50,000 ringgit or 60,000 ringgit for 4 years consecutively if the exchange rate jumps. But for Australian dollars, it's relatively stable, very honestly speaking. You can see the difference is only a 0.1. So maybe within 3 years' time, you have to find about 30,000 suddenly out of your pocket. But if you are studying in other areas whereby your currency is pound sterling or US dollars, this exchange rate is something that you should consider, because your tuition fees will jump significantly, your cost of living will jump significantly if the exchange rate jumps. But Australian dollars is generally quite stable if you're looking into the past 5 years. Actually, if you look into Australian dollar, I think I was just looking into it yesterday. It's 2.99 today actually. So you know what I mean? Australia is quite stable in that sense if you're looking to study abroad in terms of exchange rate. Okay, so if you want to know the exact amount of money that you will spend living in certain areas of Australia, this is another website that you can use. It's very in-depth. It even asks you, for example, how many times you want to watch a movie in a week, how many times you want to buy clothes. It's very, very special, very, very in-depth. So this is, I would say, the estimated month breakdown if per month. Very honestly speaking, accommodation, you are looking at about $350 per week. Okay, so this is how it goes. In Australia, they count per week. So it's about 1,400 Aussie dollars per month. Groceries is about 320, I would say, $80 per week, more than enough. Transportation, that is if you need transportation. Oh, sorry. That is if you need transportation. If you're dining out with your friends every weekend, every Friday and Saturday, let's say at $30 a meal, which is over the amount, you're going to look at about $200 every month. Let's say you have lunch on campus every day from Monday to Friday. That's about $10 per meal, all right? So that goes up to about $200 or so. Your phone and your internet, honestly, internet's already covered, all right? But I just put $100 here. And then let's say you watch movie once a week, okay? That's about $44. So altogether, it comes out to about $2,300, okay? Whereby a lot of this you do not need. For example, you don't need to watch a movie every week. You don't need $100 for your phone and internet. Maybe about $10, $20 is enough already. Lunch on campus, maybe some days you cook, some days you're not even on campus. You don't need to pay all of it. You don't need every Friday and Saturday night out. And you definitely do not need $30 a meal, okay? Transport, most of them is already provided by your university. You don't need it as well, okay? Even if you increase the groceries to maybe $100 per week, is definitely going to be less than this 2,300. Okay, and once again, if you work part-time, you can actually earn a minimum of 2,200. So as you can see over here, you can actually cover your cost of living just by working part-time. This is minimum wage. If you scoop ice cream, you get $26, which is more than this. Okay, so if you're looking into your post-study work rights, okay, if you study a bachelor degree, okay, you get 2 years of post-working visa, okay. If you're looking into studying things like health sciences, certain engineering programs, certain pharmaceutical programs, things like that, you can get up to 4 years of a post-working visa. But you must remember, you must study a minimum of 2 years in Australia. So it's altogether, you're looking to about either 4 years or 6 years in Australia for a bachelor's. If you're doing a master's right now, you can get 3 to 5 years post-working visa. And for all doctoral qualification, if you're going to study all the way until your head goes boom, you get a 4 years to a 6 years 4 years to a 6 years post-working visa. And if you're asking me right now why it's in demand, whereby you can get the extended post-working visa, this is kind of the programs that Australia is lacking right now. So of course, they're looking into nursing, medicine, dentistry, vets, medical imaging, radiologists, all these type of things. Psychologists also is in there, optometrists, pharmacists, teachers. They're really looking for teachers, engineers. And of course, if you're looking into like computer science, things like that, really required. Agriculture is also looking into it, so that's definitely an option as well. Okay, and if you actually look into this is actually the average salary, the average weekly earnings of every single person in Australia, average earning. So if you look into the average earning here right now, maybe a little bit confusing for you all to see, but if you look at this, New South Wales is actually where Sydney is, okay? Victoria is actually where Melbourne is. And if you can see in 2019, so I take this data before COVID lah, okay? If you look at it, the average that they earn is about 1,006 per week. 1,006 per week. If you convert into Malaysian ringgit, we don't convert lah, okay? We don't convert. But you can see you get about 1,006, which is actually not bad. But if you look into areas outside of Melbourne and Sydney, okay, if you study in ACT, which is basically Canberra, which is the capital of Australia, your salary is definitely actually higher, okay? Your salary is actually higher. And if you're looking into places like Western Australia, okay, which is this part here, which is Perth, same time zone, very fast flight, your average salary is actually higher by about $200 per week. So that being said, even if you look into Northern Territory, the salary is actually not that bad if you compare towards Sydney and Melbourne. So although we always think Sydney, Melbourne, Sydney, Melbourne, Sydney, Melbourne, other regions also have very good prospects for you as well. Okay, and right now, Sydney, Melbourne, very competitive to get a job, very honestly speaking. Very, very competitive. Too many people there. People from Sydney and Melbourne are actually moving to other regions of Australia. They call it inter-country migration. It's actually happening. Yeah. So you can see this is the average weekly earning. Western Australia, the highest. Okay, Western Australia, the highest. So even it's above New South Wales and Victoria. This is the 2022 statistics. So you can see here, quite a good option if Melbourne, Sydney is not the only option for you to study. And job opportunity wise, once you're done graduating, much more job opportunities because Melbourne and Sydney, very competitive. Good places, a lot of big companies are there, but you have to be a brilliant student, to be very honest. If you're looking into migration, I got this data from one of our migration agents recently. Australia is looking for nurses, early childhood teachers, and social workers. A lot of migration comes from these 3 main areas. Okay, so this is essentially the application procedure. You don't really need to know too in-depth on this. Essentially, do find us at EduExperts and we'll be able to guide you on where is the best place for you to study based on your interest, test drive your education a little bit, know where is the best for you, which one suits you, which one gives you the most confidence, okay? And then basically we will submit the application for you. Our services are free, so don't worry about it, okay? We will be able to send you in, and then after that, you can check, for example, where you want to go, you decide. So you can submit to 3 universities, for example, and you can decide where you actually want to study, okay? From there, you can decide, you send in your application, you accept the offer, and then after that, you can go on for your visa application, and you can fly to Australia. Okay, so in Australia, there are a few options of where you want to study. Okay, this is what we call a TAFE, which is a technical and further education institution. So these are actually very, very practical courses by the government. Okay, so if you're looking into this, I would say some programs, maybe 20% exams, 80% will all be theories, 80% be very practical learnings. Okay, these are called TAFEs, very practical learning. Predominantly in Malaysia, if you say polytechnic, they'll be like, oh my God, polytechnic. But in Australia, it's very different. The polytechnic there, the TAFEs there, very, very good. And they are by the government, so they get very good quality of education. Okay, that's why I say study abroad, there's a lot of different things that you can understand. If you study abroad in Australia, the tax that you pay there, they actually use it to a lot of important things. So in Australia, they always say, I'm a taxpayer. The police should listen to me. I don't listen to the police. So that's how different cultural differences work if you study abroad. So for example, because this is a government institution, the quality must be maintained. So it's actually pretty good. And TAFEs will go towards a diploma level of education or towards a bachelor's and some towards a master's as well. And these are some of the areas that they go into. So if you watch a lot of MasterChef Australia, yes, there's a lot of cooking in all these TAFEs and all those. And these are all the other places. So annual tuition fees for TAFEs are about $20,000 per year. And yes, the education is actually pretty good. Okay, if you're looking to go into the top universities in Australia, we call them the Group of 8, which is the top 8 universities in Australia. Right now, I put in here University of Technology Sydney, which is UTS, because if you see their ranking, they're actually top 90 in the world. Whereas University of Adelaide is about 89, so they're very close. So I just put them in because they're in the top 100 already, which is insane. I think in Malaysia, only UM is in the top 100. But in Australia, now they have 9 universities in the top 100 in the world. So these are all very good universities to go inside. But then again, different universities have their different strengths. So that's something that you should inquire with us as well. Then we'll be able to let you know which university is suited for basically what you are interested to study in. Okay, so this is the average cost of universities. If you're looking into the Group of 8 or the top 100 that I mentioned before, you're looking at about 40,000 to 52,000 Australian dollars per year, very honestly speaking. If you're looking into other universities whereby they are the top 1%, okay, top 1% of universities worldwide, which is in Malaysia, I think not that many we have as well. You're looking at about 27,000 to 45,000 per year. It depends. So for this one, it's very important to look into the QS ranking. So you can see subject by value. So for example, some universities, they are very famous in chemical engineering, for example, and their tuition fees are very much affordable. Some of their ranking may even be higher than the Group of 8 rankings. So these are the universities you want to look out to in case you want to study that, for example. So do inquire with us, we can share with you. And there are also very many budget-friendly institutions. So these are some of the examples, like Kaplan Business School is pretty good. The TAFEs are very good and by region. Right now, I heard Charles Darwin University, they're giving 30% scholarships to all their students. So if you study a bachelor's degree there, it's only about $18,000 per year. Yeah, $18,000. So do inquire with us because there are some universities that is very affordable, good universities as well. Yeah, so these are some of the frequently asked questions. So it's towards the end of my slide already. Do you need an IELTS TOEFL to study there? Very honestly speaking, no, because for Malaysia, you have 1119, you have your CEFR, which is embedded in your SPM course. For those who are taking O levels, it is also embedded in your English course there. So please score well for your English, and you won't need to retake an IELTS or TOEFL or PTE or anything like that. If you're talking about racial discrimination in Australia, very honestly speaking, Australia has a mix of so many different nationalities right now. Okay, so if you're talking about racial discrimination, maybe 10 years ago, maybe, but very little then also already. So if you're looking about it now, no, I would say little to none. If you're an under 18 student, I don't think there are any under 18 students here. Okay, if you're under 18 students, then basically you have to go under a homestay, okay, until you're of a mature age. And if you have a history of visa refusal, you must let us know if you want to study in Australia or any other universities or any other regions to be exact. You have to let us know because we need to be able to rearrange your assessment when you submit your visa application. It is still possible, but you need to be able to justify it. So you need to let us know if you ever had a visa refusal. temporary graduate visa, as I mentioned before, if you actually, there's two things actually. It's called a graduate work stream and a post-study work stream. Post-study work stream basically means you've done your bachelor's, you've done your master's, you get the 2 to 5 years, as I mentioned before. Graduate stream will be like, for example, if you're studying patisserie or like cooking, then even if you finish a diploma, you can actually work up to about 2 years in Australia also, even though you just finished a diploma, right? And if you're looking for demand occupations in Australia right now, as I mentioned before, IT, health science, teachers, social workers, engineers, yes. Doctors, nurses, definitely. If you're looking into accounting, drop already lah. Maybe 10 years ago, accounting, yes, is in demand in Australia, but now not much already. Yep. So these are actually some of the QS ranking that I put in for you guys. So you can see, for example, if you're looking to study architecture, these are the best universities, okay, for this program. But these ones here are actually, I would say, the one that are also quite high ranking and quite affordable. So it also depends. There are many different universities for different things that you want to study. So do inquire with us. This is just like a quick master list of, like, for example, if you want to study civil engineering, okay, UNSW is quite affordable. That's why I put a star there. For a very high ranking, it's quite affordable. But similarly, if you want to get a very good degree, which is top 100 in the world, Curtin is pretty good also. No need to spend so much money. Okay. And these are very, very different ones that you can see out there. Yep. But then again, if you're talking about qualifications, okay, so I just end my slide here. So if you're talking about ranking, once again, actually, just to share with you guys, if you're talking about ranking, if I ask you guys outside here, how many of you guys here actually know how ranking is calculated? I doubt any of you all will know. Or if you go and find someone outside there, a future employer of yours, and you ask them, which university is higher ranking, University of Sydney or University of Melbourne? Likely they don't know also. Likely they won't know, okay? So don't think too much about your ranking. Important is how you are as a person, okay? So to close off, I always want to say this, okay? You can graduate from Harvard, Cambridge, you can graduate from the best university in the world. But if you don't know how to go into an interview, talk and explain and share about yourself, at the end of the day, not many companies are going to hire you. So the best is to get a good education suited for you, okay? So you can grow into a better person and then you can land your dream job. Yeah. So that's it from my end. And thank you guys for your time. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. I'll be happy to answer them. It doesn't have to be necessarily about Australia. All right. And we can see how we can assist you from there. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Russell. So yeah, the session has come to an end. We would like to now invite students to put in your questions in the chat if you have any. Okay, just feel free to put, yeah, anything that you might want to know about studying in Australia or other countries in the world, you're welcome. Do we contact you through the WhatsApp number for further info? Yes, you can contact us. Shah, can you put in our WhatsApp number in the chat so that everybody will know how to contact us? Put our website address there as well. Thank you. Okay, Russell, while we're waiting for questions to come in, I have a question for you.
Yep.
You know, a lot of students, they are interested to come to Australia. We often get inquiries like that. They are interested to come to Australia to study medicine, dentistry, veterinary science. So, you know, these are very highly competitive programs. Can you explain or enlighten the students here actually how difficult it is to get into some of these programs?
Okay, very, very good question, actually. Because if you look into the skilled list, okay, medicine, all these medicine, health science courses are inside there. So if you do manage to get into these courses, you are eligible to about, I would say, 5 years post-working visa, 6 years post-working visa. And by then, practically, you're half Australian, very honestly speaking. But nevertheless, actually, because there is this skill shortage of doctors, nurses, health sciences, all this, nurses not that bad actually right now, actually is very competitive. So the Australian government actually sets a quota to every single university, whereby, for example, only 80 international students can study medicine in one Australian university. So you have to be the top of the top if you want to study medicine in Australia, and you have to apply about 1 year in advance because there are interviews to become this top 80 to be entered into this university. Nevertheless, there are a few universities, like for example, very surprisingly, Australian National University, they do not meet their quota every year. So these are universities that you might want to go in if you want to study medicinal course and all these type of things, because there are some universities that have not yet hit their quota, so it's best to check with us. Nevertheless, yes, you have to be a top student in order to enter a medicinal course in Australia. Yep. And you have to apply 1 year in advance because there are extra tests that you need to do, and there are also an interview that you need to pass in. Yep.
Yeah, so I think to clarify a little bit more, you should be like the top 2 or 3% of
Yes.
students in your cohort to be a competitive candidate for programs like this. And there are no transfer options, right, for such programs from Malaysia to Australia.
So I can share with you a very good thing. That's a very good point. If you're looking to transfer for medicinal courses in Malaysia, likely there is no slot for you. Okay, so I can share with you guys a little bit. If you're looking to study at example, right? So if you're looking for a very good medicinal course in Australia, you can say UNSW is a very good university if you want to study medicine. And in Malaysia, I would say IMU is partner of UNSW. But when I checked with UNSW that day, only about 5 slots is available. So even if you're looking for transfer, it's very rare to go in. And these 5 slots is shared with a few other universities, yeah. So you have to be the top of the top if you want to enter the top of the medicine in Australia, very honestly speaking.
Okay, Russell, we have some questions in the
Yep.
chat. Can you see the questions? Yeah.
Yep, so I'll just go with YX question right now. Hi, right now I'm a year 10 and not really sure what to study after IGCSE. Okay, mostly either engineering or finance. Are there any training program between Malaysia and Australia or scholarship maybe? Okay, right now if you're a year 10 student and you are not sure whether you want to do engineering or finance, very honestly speaking, the first question I ask you is, do you like mathematics? Very honestly speaking, engineering and finance is a very mathematics-born program. So that's good. You like mathematics. Okay, if that is the case, definitely there are many options for you. But please know engineering and finance is 2 very different fields. Okay, they are 2 very, very different fields. Commonly, I always ask students first, where do you see yourself working? Don't think about what you want to study first. Think of where you want to start working first. Okay, if I let you know now, engineers, you're going to work in a factory, then you're going to think, hey, work in factory. Then you think twice. Okay, and engineering and finance is quite wide. You need to understand, are you more of a science person or are you less of a science person? This is quite an easy thing. Where generally, I would say if you're more of a science person, it means if you study engineering, this engineering theory is like this, okay? You can only follow this theory. If you're looking to finance, although there are a few theories towards finance, but finance is very wide, whereby you can actually go outside of the theory and suggest different areas. Okay, so for example, if you are studying engineering next time, then maybe you will develop COVID test kits, for example. Simple example, okay? You develop test kits. So, or let's say you develop a car, you make Tesla, for example. So if you're making Tesla, you cannot go what the world is about. Meaning that, for example, if you're saying that, okay, if your car drives at a certain amount of speed, then you're going to start to use more electricity. So that's life. You cannot go outside of it. But in finance, if you're talking about how to cut the cost of a car, how to increase profitability for your selling your car, then that is where you can go outside of what you are taught of. So I would say finance is more flexible. Engineering is more rigid towards how life is already. You have to follow the theories. You cannot run away from the theories because that's how the world is built. So these are 2 different fields. And I would say for your end, because you like maths, not much of an issue. Finance is more towards statistics. Engineering is more towards calculus, which also means like your additional mathematics. So yeah.
Russell, can I just add on to that? I'm a finance major, so during my time, we had friends who did a double degree. So is that an option for this student, perhaps?
Definitely. If you're looking to study a double degree, definitely an option as well. Okay, you can do a Bachelor of Engineering and also you can do a top up 1 year to do a Bachelor of Finance. But I would say if you are really interested in doing both fields, whereby you want to integrate engineering and finance, you can work in engineering companies, but you are in charge of their finance department. So if you're doing in that case next time, that's why I say look into where you want to work, right? You may be interested in electrical cars, for example, but you may not be interested in building electrical cars, but you want to work in the finance part of these companies. So that being said, then you don't need to study engineering, just study finance. But if you want to have a double specialization, I think you gave a very good option, right? You can do a Bachelor of Engineering, top up 1 year, and you can also get a Bachelor of Finance. Better yet, after you've done your Bachelor of Engineering, do a Master of Finance. Do a Master straight away. You get best of both worlds. And so to answer your question, are there any training programs between Malaysia and Australia? If you're looking into these type of programs, I would say you're looking more into a how to put it, you're looking more into a branch university in Malaysia, perhaps. So branch universities in Malaysia, there are a few definitely that offer engineering and also finance. Okay. But very honestly speaking, if you take a foundation in business, for example, you cannot study a bachelor in engineering. That's something you need to know. But if you study a foundation in engineering, you can still study a bachelor in finance likely. Yeah. So I hope that answers your question. If not, please feel free to put more questions into the chat box and then I'll get to it. Yep. So the next question is from Enji. Did I pronounce it right? Enji? Yep. I'm interested in allied health psychology. Any requirement for this course in Australia? Okay, if you're looking to study into psychology, very honestly speaking, my first question that I ask people is, where do you see yourself working in for psychology also? So psychology is very wide. Of course, psychology is a skilled demand in Australia as well. That being said, when you study psychology, if you want to be a clinical psychologist, basically sitting down, talking to people who may be feeling a bit sad, a bit anxious, these type of things, then you're looking to go into clinical psychology. But if you're looking into the psychology of whereby you want to know how people think, why people think this way, why people act that way, and you want to use it in your daily life, then actually you don't need to go into clinical psychology. Okay. Clinical psychology in Australia and also in Malaysia actually is very high in demand. Okay, so I'm not doing this to scare you. Okay, that's very good. You like clinical psychology. Okay, I'm not doing this to scare you. But if you think of Malaysia as a whole, okay, how many clinical psychologists are there actually in Malaysia? If you say one hospital, maybe there are about 3-4 clinical psychologists. And in Malaysia, maybe there's about 50-60 hospitals, or let's just say there are 100 hospitals. So that means in the whole of Malaysia, whereby we have millions of populations, there is only about 200, or I would say about 500 clinical psychologists out there that actually have a job. So that being said, you have to be best of the best, as we mentioned before. If you're looking into health science, you have to be best of the best. And in Australia, predominantly Australia for psychology, okay, you have to be very good in order to be able to, okay, if you're looking to be a clinical psychologist, you must have a master's. You must have a master's. This is a requirement throughout all of the world, I would say. Okay, you have to have a master's. In Australia, psychology is a 4-year degree. Okay, so your 3-year degree is what we call a Bachelor of Science Psychology or a Bachelor of Psychological Science. Your 4th year is what we call a Bachelor of Psychology or a Bachelor of Psychology Honours, depends on how they call it. Different universities have different callings, okay? Usually, even if you enroll in a psychology course, okay, in order to proceed to your year 4, okay, you must be the top, I would say top 30% of the students. If not, you will not be offered to go into the 4th year. That's how psychology works in Australia, okay? You have to be the top 30% of the students in order to be offered into the 4th year, okay, the 4th year. And only if you have a 4-year psychology degree, you are eligible to join a master's in clinical psychology. If not, you are not eligible. Those who have 3 years, commonly what they will do is maybe they consult students. If not, maybe they will become like a teacher. Some of them work in marketing, for example, because they know how people think. So for example, in a marketing advertisement, why some of them are red color? Because if you have a red color poster and a black color poster, people will look at the red color poster first. So this is something people learn with psychology and how they use in real life. So some of them, they go into marketing, some of them, they go into HR if you're not able to get into the top 30%. But generally for clinical psychology, top 30%. Even if you're looking to study clinical psychology in Malaysia itself, I heard that there is quite a high quota for Masters of Psychology. So yes, that is definitely something for clinical psychology. I hope it opens up your mind. If you have any questions more about psychology, yep, that's something. You have more. Yep.
Would you recommend if a student is interested in psychology, like NT, should she do the OSMED or could she do a foundation in Australia? You know, which pathway will work better for her?
Okay, if you ask me directly for psychology, now I throw back the question to you and Chi, for example. Number one, do you like exams? Likely answer is no, you don't like exams. Number two, if I ask you about psychology, and now you have to make a psychology exam, okay? What of an exam is there can you actually write about psychology? You write, oh, please write down how a person will feel when they are sad. I mean, this is not how you learn psychology, but rather it should be more coursework based. It's more coursework based. You go and put yourself practical into the field. So I would definitely recommend to straight away go into a foundation program. You already know what you want to do. Foundation is a straight pathway, and you're guaranteed a spot in bachelor's once you're done. Right? I mean, most of the time you're guaranteed a spot in bachelor's. So a foundation program will give you the basics already on how to practically apply as a psychologist already. But if you study like A levels or something general of psychology, honestly speaking, you will only learn the practical part of it. You only learn the theory part of it, but how to apply it in real life, you won't know it. So therefore, I would say if you already know, go into the coursework side of psychology. If you're saying maybe engineering, whereby like I mentioned before, you need to know the theory, then okay lah, not bad lah. You can consider doing A levels, OSMED, all those. But for this one, it's very practical based. So I would say it's good. Cause right now I'm a year 11 waiting for my IG. So what's the steps of studying in Australia? If you're a year 11 waiting for your IG, I guess your results will be out in very soon or at the end of the year. Okay. Usually right now, if you're looking to study psychology, I would say you can we can set a separate session, okay, and then we can discuss on to where you want to study, what is your budget, how to suit your budget also, and the whole pathway for you towards your Masters of Psychology. What is the best options for you in the end, right? Then again, it's also how do I say, we need to know more of your personal background in order for us to advise you more on like where is the best place for you to study for your clinical psychology. Yeah. Okay, so the next question that we have is from Jonathan. May I know, I want to study at Australia. How do we apply the university scholarship? Okay, if you're looking to study in Australia, definitely there are a lot of scholarships. Like I mentioned before, if you're looking to study in Charles Darwin University, for example, right now, there's a 30% as long as you go inside straight away. So a lot of scholarships, they are either based on what you have currently studied, okay, and then they'll offer you a scholarship, or some of them is, okay, put it this way, some scholarships is by the government. As long as you go into the university, you meet the entry requirements, they'll give you 20%, they'll give you 30% scholarships right away. Some universities, when you're going towards the higher ranking of universities, some of their scholarships, the way they work is, let's say you are doing well right now in your SPM, for example, okay, they will give you a scholarship for year one, okay, or your foundation program, and you have to do good in that foundation program to continue this scholarship to progress your scholarship. So for example, you have to score 8 A's in your SPM to get this scholarship. When you do your foundation, you also need to get 8 A's. When you go into your bachelor's, you also need 8 A's. When you go into your bachelor's year 2, you also need 8 A's to continue this scholarship to keep rolling. Some scholarships, for example, if you do well in your A levels, they give you 30% throughout your whole program straight away. So it's best to consult with us based on where you want to study, and then we can also see where is the best scholarship option for you based on your results as well. Different universities definitely will have different scholarships as well. That's why. So we need to know which university you want to study in. So simple example, if you're looking to study let's just say you're looking to study IT, for example, and you have good results, I would say University of Adelaide is a good option, because right next to University of Adelaide, they have this thing called Lot 14, which is basically their their Silicon Valley, I would say. It's like their Silicon Valley. So you have a lot of good job opportunities there. And they give you about if you score well, they give you 30% or 20% throughout your whole program. What you mean is that I don't need to apply for it. You actually need to apply for it, okay? For example, but some scholarships, all right, is automatically assessed when you submit your application. So for example, when you submit your application, you have to send us your results, right? So when you send in your results, okay, we will straight away assess, okay, you already meet this scholarship, so we will apply for you the scholarship straight away. Yeah, so that's how it works. But some scholarships, for example, like the University of Adelaide one, you have to actually submit separately in order to get it. So it depends on the university. Different universities have different procedures as well. So it's best to check with us. Okay, so we go to the next question. It's from Rohini. Yep. My son is not sure what he wants to do.
I answered that already, Russell.
Oh, okay. Sure. Okay,
I think there are no
so
more questions. I think for the general audience here, if you are interested to know about how to apply, right, the application process is fairly straightforward. But what you will benefit by working with a firm like us is we will guide you through the application process. We'll do everything for you, get you the offer, and we will advise if you meet the entry requirements. That's very important because there's no point if you apply to a school, but if you don't meet the entry requirements. That's one. Number two, there are scholarships available, but I think I don't know if Russell will agree with me on this. The high rank university, right? Sometimes the scholarships are quite difficult to get unless you are like the top 5 or 10% of students in your school. And you will know that because, from your grades, you likely know if you're one of those. If you are interested in scholarship, right? Maybe you want to target a mid to high rank university, especially mid-rank university. The scholarships there are a lot more easier to get. And a lot of the scholarships are automatic, meaning you don't have to file a separate application for those scholarships. The moment you get an offer, right, very likely the scholarship will come together with it. Okay, so that's an easy way for you to save some money. I mean, 30% is a lot of money, 25-30% per year throughout your 3 years of degree. It almost saves you 1 year of cost of tuition fees in Australia.
Yeah, very good way to put it.
Yeah, per year, right? So that's what we can help you with. And very importantly is the visa. For those who are going abroad for the first time to study, right, you will definitely need help with your visa because for Australia visa, there's such things called the GTE requirement. You need to write the GTE statement. There are a lot of requirements that you may not be aware or familiar with. That's where we can come in to assist you. Okay, so yeah, after today's session, if you are keen, just get in touch with one of our consultants. We can schedule a one-on-one consultation, pre-consultation with you. You can come into the office. We can do a Zoom session, with Russell and all that. So yeah, please feel free to make use of us. Yeah, we are here to serve you. Okay. There's one more question. Other than academic results, how can we increase our chances to obtain a scholarship? Russell, that's for you.
Okay. And also to add on what you mentioned earlier, like you say, if you go into the top university, sometimes entry requirements can be very, very high. So do check with us because there are actually pathways to enter inside. We are able to advise you on pathways. So simple example, if you are looking to study in UNSW, which is ranked 19 in the world, their entry requirements is generally like straight A's. But if you want to enter without straight A's, there are possibilities and you don't lose any time. And you don't need to spend any extra money also. So do let us know and we can arrange for you what is the best option for you. Yeah. Other than academic results, how do we increase our chances for obtaining a scholarship? Okay, if you're looking at chances of getting a scholarship apart from just academic, some universities do accept sports scholarships. Okay, so if you do good in certain sports, then they do accept sports scholarships. Okay, they do accept, but nevertheless, they are very competitive. And these are mainly the options for scholarships if you're looking to study abroad lah. Other
Actually,
than
Australia is mainly merit-based. Most of the
yes,
scholarships are merit-based. That means they are generally based on academic results.
yes.
It's very different in the US, but yeah, that's the case with Australia and the UK. All right, I think we have no more questions. Thank you very much for attending this session today. Any, last words or advice for our audience here, Russell, that you want to share with the audience before we wrap up the session?
Good luck. And also, I would always like to say that when you are choosing your education, right? Choose something that makes you happy, because you only have one university life in your whole life. Okay, you only have one university life in your whole life, so make sure you get the best of your one university life. There will be no two university life. There'll be 2-3 cars in your life, definitely. You will have your BMW, you will have your Mercedes, you will have your Myvi, but you will only have one university life. So choose the right one. Be careful with it. Test drive. Yeah, thank you so much, Joey.
Thank you, Russell. Have a good weekend, everyone. Yeah. So, and good luck and all the best in your exams. Thank you. Thank you to Team Edu Experts. Bye-bye. All right, those who are interested in career profiling, just, if we don't contact you, if we miss you, just text us, text Jacelyn in her WhatsApp, and we'll send out the forms to you for the career profiling. All right, thank you.